Hey everyone, welcome to another deep dive with us. Today we're going to be taking a look at this book, The Perfect Day Formula, by Craig Ballantyne.
Yeah, it's a really interesting book.
Now, when you think about perfect day, you might
Yeah.
think, okay, this is all about time management. But
Right.
actually, it's about a lot more than that. It's about happiness and freedom and leaving a legacy.
Yeah, and you know what's really cool about this book is that Ballantyne actually draws upon a lot of ancient wisdom.
Oh, really?
Yeah, especially like Stoic philosophy.
Oh,
So
wow.
it's really interesting to see how he kind of applies these age-old principles to modern-day challenges.
I like that.
Well,
And he mixes that with personal stories and anecdotes.
oh yeah, definitely. He shares a lot of his own personal
And
experiences.
goes into his own routine.
Oh yeah. That's one of the things that really stood out to me. He starts his workday at 4 a.m.
4 a.m.
4 a.m.
Wow. Could you imagine doing that?
I don't know about that. I'm not really a morning person. But you know what I really appreciate about Ballantyne's approach is that he really emphasizes adaptability.
Okay, so it's not about like a rigid schedule that everybody has to
Yeah.
follow.
Exactly. The key takeaway is identifying your number one priority
Okay.
and then building your day around that. So it's really about customization.
I like that.
Yeah.
So it's all about starting with what's important to you.
Exactly.
And he actually starts off the book with this principle of control your mornings.
Yeah, that's a big one.
And he talks about how he used to check his father's nightstand for candy every day, even years after his father passed away.
Really?
Yeah, to illustrate the power of rituals and habits.
Wow, that's fascinating. You know, it reminds me of that saying, we are what we repeatedly do.
Yeah, definitely. Makes you think, what kind of ingrained habits in our lives might be holding us back?
Right. Like, are we checking our phones first thing in the morning or are we hitting the snooze button multiple times?
Yeah, are we starting our day in a reactive mode or are we being proactive about it?
And that actually ties in really well with the Stoic philosophy that Ballantyne talks about.
Oh, yeah, tell me more about that.
Well, the Stoics, they emphasize focusing on what we can control, which is our own actions,
Okay.
rather than external circumstances.
Right.
So waking up even just 15 minutes earlier can be a really powerful first step in setting that tone for the day.
I could see how that could make a difference.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a small change, but it can have a ripple effect throughout your whole day.
Now, I know not everyone is a morning person,
Oh, yeah, me neither.
but Ballantyne really encourages people to experiment to find what works best for them.
Right. It's not about forcing yourself to wake up at some arbitrary time.
Yeah.
It's about finding what feels good for you and what allows you to kind of set yourself up for
So
success.
maybe it's 5 a.m., maybe it's 7 a.m.
Exactly. Whatever works.
The point is to carve out some time for yourself and your priorities,
And to really own your morning.
right? So once you've got control of your mornings, then Ballantyne talks about this really interesting concept called the power of rules.
Yeah, he's a big believer in creating these rules for your life.
So these aren't just to-do lists, right?
No, not at all. It's more about having these guiding principles that help you align your actions with your goals.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more about what kind of rules he's talking about.
Well, one of his rules is not checking email first thing in the morning.
Really,
Yeah.
I can see how that could be helpful.
Right, because you're not immediately bombarded with other people's demands.
You're starting your day on your own terms.
Exactly.
I actually have a similar rule. I don't check social media until after lunch.
I like that. That's a good one.
Yeah, it really helps me to focus on my creative work in the morning without getting distracted.
Makes sense. What about you? Do you have any rules that help you stay focused?
I do. I try to always get outside for at least 30 minutes every day.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, it really helps me to clear my head and get some fresh air.
I can imagine. And you know what I think is really interesting about rules is that while they might seem restrictive on the surface, they actually free you up in a lot of ways.
Oh, how so?
Well, by kind of automating certain choices, you're no longer wasting energy on willpower battles and decision fatigue.
Right, you're not constantly having to decide whether or not to check your email or scroll through social media.
Exactly.
It's like having a personal autopilot for success.
Precisely.
Yeah.
You're freeing up your mental energy for the things that really matter.
Okay, now for a tool that really stood out to me in this book, it's called the not to-do list.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
Now it sounds kind of counterintuitive, right?
It does a little bit.
But it's actually really powerful. It's
Mhm.
about proactively removing temptations from your day.
Yeah, it's about identifying those time wasters that we all have.
Right, like hitting the snooze button or mindlessly surfing the internet or getting sucked into social media.
And then consciously choosing not to do those things.
Right, it's about setting yourself up for success by removing those pitfalls.
and making it easier to make the right choices, especially when our willpower is low.
So it's kind of like erecting guardrails for your day,
Yeah, I like that metaphor.
keeping you on track and preventing you from veering off into those time-wasting traps.
So it's all about being proactive rather than reactive.
Okay, now let's get real for a second. What are some time sucks that you would put on your own not-to-do list?
Oh gosh. I think my biggest one is definitely social media.
Yeah, I feel
I
that.
can easily get sucked into scrolling for hours.
Me too. And what about you?
Oh, for me, I think it's probably email. I can get really bogged down in responding to messages, and it just eats up so much time.
Yeah, I totally get that.
But you know what I think is really cool about the not-to-do list is that it makes you more aware of those time wasters.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
once you're aware of them, you can start to consciously choose to avoid them.
Okay, so we've talked about controlling our mornings.
Right.
We've talked about creating rules for our lives, and we've talked about the not-to-do list.
Right.
Now, Ballantyne says that we all face this challenge of conquering the afternoon chaos.
Oh, yeah, that's a real thing.
And in the second part of his book, he actually lays out 5 key pillars for success.
Okay, what are they?
They are planning professional accountability, social support incentives, and big deadlines.
Ooh, big deadlines. I like that.
Now, I was really intrigued by his emphasis on professional accountability.
Yeah, tell me more about that.
Well, he actually talks about his own experience of hiring his first business coach.
Oh, wow.
And he says that it had a profound impact on his trajectory.
I can imagine having someone to guide you and hold you accountable can be so helpful.
Exactly. And what's interesting is that this principle applies to so much more than just business.
Right. Whether you're trying to lose weight, write a book,
Yeah.
learn a new skill, whatever it is, having a coach or mentor can really make a difference.
Absolutely. Because it's not just about having someone to give you advice.
Right. It's about having someone who believes in you and who's going to push you to be your best.
Exactly. And, that brings to mind this analogy that Ballantyne uses. It's the crab in the bucket syndrome.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of that one.
Have you?
Yeah, it's about how crabs trapped in a bucket will actually pull each other down when one of them tries to escape.
Right. It's a metaphor for how negative people can hold us back from reaching our full potential.
And it's so true. We all know those people who are constantly complaining or doubting themselves or putting others down.
And it's important to be aware of who we're surrounding ourselves with.
Absolutely. Because their negativity can really rub off on us.
And it can prevent us from achieving our goals.
So it's all about choosing your companions wisely.
Right. Are the people in your circle empowering you to reach your full potential? Or are they subtly holding you back?
That's a great question for everyone to ask themselves.
It's a powerful reminder that we need to be intentional about the people we let into our lives.
Because our social circles can either lift us up or drag us down.
Okay, so now that we've established the importance of having supportive relationships, let's talk about another crucial element in Ballantyne's framework, and that is the power of deadlines.
Ooh, I love deadlines. They're so motivating.
Me too. And he even cites the example of Sheryl Sandberg.
Facebook's COO.
Yeah. She famously leaves work at 5:30 p.m. every day to have dinner with her family.
That's impressive.
Right. And it shows that even someone as busy and successful as her recognizes the importance of setting boundaries and sticking to them.
And it highlights the power of deadlines, even self-imposed ones.
Right, because they give us a sense of urgency and help us to overcome procrastination.
And Ballantyne actually suggests cutting our deadlines in half.
In half.
Yeah, I know it sounds crazy, but he says it forces us to prioritize ruthlessly and really concentrate our efforts.
I could see how that could be effective.
Right. It's about challenging ourselves to work more efficiently and to avoid getting bogged down in perfectionism.
So whether it's daily tasks or long-term aspirations, having a definite end date in sight can really help us to stay focused and on track.
Absolutely. Deadlines are a powerful tool for getting things done.
And, that brings us to this really interesting concept that Ballantyne calls the New W law of attraction.
Okay, I'm curious. Tell me more.
Well, he shares a personal anecdote about how he manifested his dream job at earlytorise.com
Wow.
through a combination of clarity, action, and connection.
So it's not just about sitting around and wishing for things to happen.
Right. It's about taking concrete steps towards your goals.
And aligning your actions with your vision.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And by doing so, you create a momentum that attracts opportunities into your life.
So it's about putting yourself in the right place at the right time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And about being open to possibilities that might come your way.
And that requires a certain amount of faith and trust.
Yes, definitely.
And a willingness to take risks.
Right. So it's not about magical thinking, but it's about creating the right conditions for success.
And then taking action.
Exactly. So once you set your goals and taken those first steps, it's important to concentrate on what counts.
Right, to stay focused on the things that are truly important to you.
And that means being mindful of how you spend your time and energy.
And making choices that align with your vision for your life.
Ballantyne specifically talks about the importance of being intentional with our evening routines.
Oh, that's a good one. Because it's so easy to just kind of veg out in front of the TV or scroll through social media at the end of a long day.
Exactly. But he challenges us to resist that urge.
And instead, to use that time to connect with loved ones, pursue meaningful hobbies, or simply reflect on the day
Right. It's about using those evening hours to recharge and prepare for the day ahead.
so that we can wake up feeling refreshed and ready to tackle whatever comes our way.
Now, before we move on to the next part of our exploration of the perfect day formula, I think it would be helpful to recap some of the key takeaways from our discussion so far.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Let's do a quick rundown.
Okay, so first up, we talked about the importance of controlling your mornings.
Right, setting yourself up for success by waking up a little earlier and tackling your most important task first.
Exactly. And then we discussed the power of creating rules for your life.
Those guiding principles that help us to make better decisions automatically.
Right. And then we explored the concept of the not-to-do list.
Proactively eliminating those temptations that can derail our focus.
And then we talked about the importance of seeking professional accountability.
Whether that's in the form of a coach, a mentor, or even just a trusted friend.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we also highlighted the significance of building a positive support system.
Surrounding ourselves with people who inspire us and believe in our potential.
Right, because the people we spend time with can have a huge impact on our success.
And then we discussed the power of deadlines.
How setting clear end dates for our goals and tasks can help us to overcome procrastination and achieve amazing things.
And we also touched on the importance of visualizing our ideal day.
Getting clear on what we want our lives to look like and making choices that move us in that direction.
And of course, we emphasize the need to concentrate on what counts.
Aligning our actions with our goals and making sure that we're spending our time and energy on the things that truly matter.
And finally, we talked about the importance of sharing our goals with supportive people.
Because accountability and encouragement can make a world of difference in helping us to stay on track.
That's right.
So those are some of the key insights that we've gleaned from the Perfect Day Formula so far.
And I'm really excited to dive deeper into the book in our next episode.
Me too. There's so much more to explore, including the intricacies of creating an evening routine that sets us up for success the next day.
I can't wait.
Stay tuned for more insightful strategies and actionable tips to help you create your own perfect day.
See you next time. So as we kind of continue to explore this idea of the perfect day, Ballantyne emphasizes that it's not about reaching some far off ideal.
Right, it's not about perfection.
No, definitely not. It's more about thoughtfully designing a day that truly reflects your values and your priorities.
And he talks about this concept of personal responsibility,
Yes.
which is that we are ultimately in control of our own lives.
I love that idea.
It's empowering,
Yeah.
right?
Absolutely. Because it means that even though we can't control everything that happens to us,
Right, yeah.
we can control how we respond to those things.
And the actions we take.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
about taking ownership of our lives.
And Ballantyne uses this really great analogy from the culinary world.
Oh, yeah.
He talks about the concept of mise en place,
Oh, I love that.
which means everything in its place.
Right.
And it's basically about how chefs, they meticulously organize their tools and ingredients before they even start cooking.
Yeah, they have everything prepped and ready to go.
Exactly. And he says that we can apply this same principle to our own lives.
So it's like setting ourselves up for success
Right. By having everything in its place,
by being prepared
we can create a more seamless and successful experience.
in whatever we're doing.
And this is especially important in the morning,
Oh, why is that?
because that's when our willpower is typically at its highest.
Oh, that makes sense.
So by front-loading our day with those important tasks,
Right.
we can actually kind of set ourselves up for a cascade of accomplishments.
It's like starting a chain reaction.
Right. And each small win fuels the next.
I like that.
It's all about building momentum.
Now, you mentioned earlier that Ballantyne hired a business coach
Huh?
and how that really impacted his trajectory.
It was a game changer for him
I can see how that would be so helpful.
because having that outside perspective and that accountability can really make a difference.
And it's not just for business either.
Right.
I think this applies to any area of life where we're trying to achieve something.
Absolutely. Whether it's fitness or relationships or creative pursuits.
Having a coach or a mentor can help us to get there faster.
And avoid costly mistakes.
Exactly. Because they've already been there and done that
Right. They can share their wisdom and experience with us.
and guide us along the way.
So it's really about leveraging the power of mentorship.
Absolutely. And, that brings us back to this idea of supportive relationships
Yes.
and the importance of surrounding ourselves with the right people.
And Ballantyne uses this really vivid analogy to illustrate this point.
Oh, what is it?
It's the crabs in a bucket metaphor.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of that one.
Yep.
Yeah, it's about how if you have a bucket full of crabs and one of them tries to climb out, the other crabs will actually pull it back down.
Exactly. It's a powerful image of how negativity can hold us back.
And how the people we surround ourselves with can either support our growth or hinder it.
So it's really about choosing our companions wisely.
Absolutely, because our social circles can have a huge impact on our mindset and our motivation.
And, in addition to accountability and supportive relationships, Ballantyne also talks about the importance of incentives.
Ooh, incentives. I like that.
Right. Because rewards can be a great motivator.
Especially when we're working towards challenging goals.
Exactly. And he actually shares this funny story about how he used to use candy as a reward system to get through long church services as a kid.
Really?
Yeah, he would try to outlast his sister before indulging.
That's hilarious.
But it just goes to show that even something as simple as a piece of candy can be a powerful motivator.
Because it gives us something to look forward to.
Right. And those rewards don't have to be big or expensive,
No, they can be small things that bring us joy.
like savoring a cup of coffee after a productive morning,
Or taking a relaxing bath at the end of a long day.
or treating yourself to a nice meal after achieving a milestone,
Exactly. The key is to find what works for you.
and to use those incentives strategically to maintain momentum.
Now, you mentioned earlier that Ballantyne is a big believer in deadlines.
Yes, he considers them to be one of the most crucial pillars for success.
And I have to agree, deadlines are so important for getting things done,
Absolutely. Because they give us a sense of urgency.
and they help us to overcome procrastination.
And Ballantyne actually suggests cutting our deadlines in half.
Whoa, that's intense.
I know it sounds crazy.
I kind of like it.
Me too. Because it forces us to prioritize and work more efficiently.
It's like a challenge to ourselves.
Right, to push beyond our comfort zones and really accelerate our progress.
And he gives a great example of this in the book.
Well, what is it?
He talks about Sheryl Sandberg again.
Facebook's COO.
Yes, and how she makes a point of leaving work at 5:30 p.m. every day.
To have dinner with her family.
Exactly. And it shows that even someone at her level recognizes the importance of setting boundaries.
And sticking to them.
It's about being intentional with our time and energy.
And making sure that we're not letting work consume our lives.
So it's all about finding that balance.
Right, between our professional and personal lives.
And deadlines can help us to do that.
Now, so far, we've talked about 4 of Ballantyne's 5 pillars for success.
Right. Planning, professional accountability, social support, and incentives.
And the 5th pillar is the big deadline.
Ah, yes. The big deadline.
And he actually talks about 2 ways that we can use this pillar in our lives.
Okay, tell me more.
So first, we can use deadlines to create structure within our daily routines.
Okay, so for example,
Like Sheryl Sandberg leaving work at 5:13.
right,
We can set specific end times for tasks or meetings.
to prevent them from bleeding into other parts of our day.
Exactly. It's about creating those boundaries
Even if they're just mental boundaries.
to protect our time and energy.
I like that.
And then the second way we can use the big deadline is to set a definitive end date for achieving our goals.
Oh, that's a good one.
Whether it's losing weight or writing a book or launching a business,
Having that target date in mind can really motivate us
it creates a sense of urgency.
and helps us to stay focused.
And Ballantyne even recommends having our deadlines.
Cutting them in half.
I know it sounds extreme,
It does.
but he says it's a powerful way to overcome procrastination.
And to speed up our progress.
And sometimes deadlines can feel a bit intimidating.
Oh, yeah, especially when we're dealing with big, ambitious goals.
It can be overwhelming.
What do we do about that?
Well, Ballantyne suggests that we break down those big goals into smaller, more manageable increments.
Ah, the classic divide and conquer strategy.
Exactly.
That makes everything seem less daunting.
Right, and each small win along the way.
Gives us a boost of confidence.
And helps us to stay motivated.
And Ballantyne actually provides a helpful framework for this process.
Well, tell me more.
He suggests that we create both outcome goals and process goals.
Okay, so what's the difference?
Well, outcome goals are those big picture aspirations.
Like losing 20 pounds or writing a best-selling novel.
Exactly. While process goals are the smaller, actionable steps that we take on a daily or weekly basis to achieve those outcomes.
Okay, so for example.
If your outcome goal is to write a book, Your process goal might be to write 1,000 words every day.
I like that.
It's about breaking down those big goals into smaller, more manageable chunks.
And focusing on those consistent actions that we can control.
Exactly. And by doing so, we gradually chip away at that larger goal.
And eventually we achieve what we set out to do.
And you know what else Ballantyne emphasizes?
What's that?
The importance of sharing our goals with others,
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
especially those who will support and encourage us along the way.
Because having that accountability and that positive reinforcement can make a big difference.
Just like having a cheering section.
Right. And it can help us to stay motivated when things get tough.
Exactly. And Ballantyne says that sharing our goals doesn't have to be some big formal announcement.
Right. It can be as simple as mentioning it to a friend or family member,
Or joining an online community.
or even just posting about our progress on social media.
The key is to find those supportive environments where we feel comfortable sharing our journey.
And celebrating our wins.
Absolutely. Because we all need that encouragement and that sense of community.
Now, while Ballantyne is all about persistence and never giving up on our dreams, he also recognizes that there are times when it might be necessary to reassess our goals.
Oh, yeah. Sometimes we need to let go of things that are no longer serving us.
Exactly. And he encourages us to ask ourselves some tough questions.
Like what kind of questions?
Like, are these goals still relevant to who I am and what I want to achieve?
That's a good one.
And are they bringing me joy and fulfillment, or are they causing me stress and resentment?
Those are important questions to ask ourselves.
Because sometimes letting go of a goal can be the most liberating thing we can do.
Absolutely. It frees us up to focus on the things that truly matter.
And that brings us to the essence of what Ballantyne is really advocating for:
Which is,
a life of intentionality and purpose.
I love that.
It's about aligning our actions with our values.
And creating a life that we're excited to wake up to every day.
And, Ballantyne touches on this concept in his chapter on the new law of attraction.
Oh, yeah. Remind me what that's about.
Well, he shares this personal story about how he manifested his dream job at earlytoraya.com.
Through a combination of clarity, action, and connection.
Exactly. And it shows that when we align our actions with our vision,
We create a momentum that attracts opportunities into our lives.
it's about putting ourselves in the right place at the right time.
And being open to possibilities.
As we wrap up our exploration of the perfect day formula, there's one key takeaway that really stands out to me.
Oh, what is it?
It's that it's not just about managing our time effectively.
It's about managing our energy wisely.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because we all have a finite amount of energy each day.
And we need to be strategic about how we spend it.
Ballantyne talks about prioritizing our most important tasks for the morning, when our willpower and focus are at their peak.
Right.
He talks about eliminating distractions and temptations,
That drain our mental bandwidth.
and he even encourages us to structure our evenings in a way that allows for rest and rejuvenation,
So it's all about understanding our own energy patterns.
and making choices that support our well-being.
And when we learn to manage our energy effectively,
We're not just more productive.
we're also more creative, more resilient, and more joyful.
Absolutely. It's about creating a sustainable rhythm for our lives.
A balance between exertion and restoration.
Now, Ballantyne provides a lot of great strategies for managing our time, our focus, and our energy,
Right.
but ultimately it's up to each of us to experiment and find what works best for us.
Exactly. Because what works for one person might not work for another.
And that's the beauty of personal development.
It's a journey of self-discovery.
Now, there's one thing that I'm curious about.
Oh, what's that?
Ballantyne talks a lot about the importance of having a clear vision for our lives,
Right.
but he doesn't really delve into the specifics of how to create that vision.
That's true. So how do we do it?
Well, I think it starts with getting clear on our values.
Our values.
Yes, what's truly important to us?
Okay.
What do we want our lives to stand for?
That's a good starting point.
And once we have a firm grasp on our values, we can start to build a vision that aligns with those core beliefs.
It's like creating a compass that guides our decisions and actions.
I love that analogy.
It helps us to stay true to ourselves.
Even when faced with difficult choices.
Now, we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive,
We have.
exploring Ballantyne's framework for crafting a productive and fulfilling day.
But there's one crucial pillar that we haven't fully unpacked yet.
And that is,
Concentrating on what counts.
especially during those often neglected evening hours.
And that's where we'll pick up in the next part of our deep
I
dive.
can't wait.
We'll be delving into Ballantyne's insights on how to prioritize our energy, eliminate distractions, and create an evening routine that sets us up for success the next day.
Sounds good.
Stay tuned. All right, so we're back and ready to wrap up our deep dive into the perfect day formula.
Yeah, we've talked about controlling our mornings and conquering the afternoon chaos.
Now it's time to focus on the evening hours.
Yeah, how we can design that part of our day to boost both productivity and fulfillment.
Ballantyne really stresses this idea of concentrating on what counts during those evening hours.
It's so easy to just zone out in front of the TV or scroll through social media.
He calls it the escape trap,
Right, we're trying to escape from the stress of the day.
but it actually ends up depleting our energy and leaving us feeling unfulfilled.
Yeah, it's like choosing junk food over a nutritious meal.
It might feel good in the moment, but it doesn't nourish us in the long run.
So what does Ballantyne suggest we do instead?
He recommends dedicating our evenings to things that truly matter,
Like spending time with loved ones,
pursuing hobbies,
engaging in reflection.
or simply unwinding in ways that replenish our energy.
He actually calls the evening routine a landing sequence.
I like that.
It's like a pilot bringing a plane in for a smooth landing.
We can create a similar ritual for ourselves to help us transition from the doing mode of the day to the being mode of the night.
And that landing sequence will look different for everyone.
Right, it depends on our individual preferences and lifestyles.
But let's explore some of the things that Ballantyne suggests.
Like disconnecting from technology at least an hour before bed,
To minimize mental stimulation and promote restful sleep.
spending quality time with loved ones,
Engaging in meaningful conversations or just enjoying each other's company.
engaging in restorative activities like reading or taking a bath,
Or listening to calming music or practicing meditation.
taking some time to reflect on the day,
Acknowledging our accomplishments and identifying areas for improvement.
and preparing for the next day by organizing our clothes or packing our lunches.
To reduce that morning stress.
These are just a few examples.
The key is to experiment and find what works best for you.
And to create an evening routine that leaves you feeling refreshed and ready for a new day.
Because, as the Stoic philosopher Seneca said,
Every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end.
so true.
The way we end one day sets the stage for how we begin the next.
So, by intentionally designing our evening routine,
We're not just winding down for the night.
we're actually setting ourselves up for success tomorrow.
Now, we've covered a lot of ground in our deep dive into the perfect day formula,
We've explored Ballantyne's strategies for controlling our mornings
conquering the afternoon chaos.
and concentrating on what counts in the evenings.
I think we've gleaned a lot of wisdom from his work.
Absolutely.
But before we wrap up, I think it would be helpful to distill Ballantyne's insights into a concise 10-point summary.
Yeah, a little cheat sheet that people can refer back to.
Okay, so here are 10 key takeaways from the perfect day formula.
Number 1, control your mornings.
Wake up 15 minutes earlier and dedicate that time to your most important task.
Number 2, create rules for your life.
Those guiding principles that help you make better decisions automatically.
Number 3, use a not-to-do list.
Proactively eliminate temptations to stay focused.
Number 4, seek professional accountability.
A coach or mentor can dramatically increase your success rate.
Number 5, build a positive support system.
Surround yourself with people who inspire you, not crabs in a bucket.
Number 6, harness the power of deadlines.
Set clear end dates for your goals and tasks.
Number 7, visualize your ideal day.
What does your perfect day look like?
Number 8, concentrate on what counts.
Align your actions with your goals.
Number 9, share your goals with supportive people.
Accountability and encouragement help you stay on track.
And number 10, never give up on what truly matters.
But don't be afraid to let go of things that don't serve you.
There you have it, folks.
10 powerful principles for crafting a more productive and fulfilling day.
I hope you found this deep dive helpful.
We encourage you to experiment with these ideas.
And see what works best for you.
Remember, it's all about creating a day that aligns with your values,
And helps you to achieve your goals.
while also living a life that feels meaningful and joyful.
So keep learning, keep growing, and keep striving for your own perfect day.
Until next time, take care.